You know?
Let's go!
Off we go, Joe.
Last one, then you can go out. Boring Holland.
Well, the mountains of Holland, as Joe would say.
One of the many things that gets me about this is, how did you know you'd finished this album after all this time? What was the point where you said, that's it?
Somebody told me. I knew because I was the last person in, and I sung the very last word that went down. So that was it. I knew it was finished. I couldn't believe it.
Self-indulgence, eh?
It was unbelievable. I wasn't happy. I wasn't ecstatic. I wasn't leaping up and down. It was just like a big, it was one of them, like a massive sigh of relief. But I mean, we had our ups and downs, but it's finished now, and we're definitely on and up now.
How many times did you actually record the album and reject it?
It was sort of. This is like the third attempt, but it was really only 1.5, I suppose. We did some tracks, not the whole album. We did some tracks with Jim Steinman that were useless, so we scrapped them. And then we started again with Nigel Green, who was Mutt's engineer. And we scrapped a lot of that, but we did keep some of it. And then Mutt moved in on the project about halfway through what we were doing with Nige. And salvaged some stuff, and we started some stuff again. But we hadn't started it all by the time Mutt came in. We'd maybe been 6 songs deep. So we had 6 songs that started from scratch anyway. So it's kind of 3 attempts, but really only 1.5, if you get me drift.
What was wrong with Jim Steinman? Because I remember him telling me about this. I said, all right, I'm going off to do the Def Leppard album. I thought, this sounds like a good combination.
It on the face of it actually looked as though it would work out, but he's one of these producers that will sort of, he won't wipe anything. He'll sort of see some kind of quality in whatever you put on tape, which the way that we work, it didn't really come together. It was basically the bit of a wrong combination, I think. I mean, no disrespect to Jim Steinman, because obviously he's been very successful with Bonnie Tyler and Meatloaf, this, that, and the other. But it just wasn't right for us. It was obvious from very early on that our standards were quite a lot higher from a performance point of view, from a sound point of view, from tuning point of view, and I think he basically wanted to come in, get the album finished pretty much as quickly as he could, and then disappear and do other things. Whereas we, after doing something like Pyromania, we thought, well, we really do need to make something a little bit special here, and that is basically what went wrong. We were at different. We were looking at the record from different angles. We were looking at from sort of coming off the slipstream from Pyromania, and he was just sort of looking at, obviously it was his first album that he'd done with us, so it didn't really work out.
Was Pyromania one of the many problems that was always in the back of your mind, that you've always got to do better than that?
Well, it appears that way, but what it is really, we just wanted to improve on it no matter how good it had been. I mean, if Pyromania had been twice as good as it would have been even harder, because we just want to keep getting better. We didn't want to just accept that was the peak of our capabilities, so let's just emulate the thing. We wanted to go out there and better it 100% like we bettered High and Dry with Pyromania. So in that sense, yes, but only in it was like just an ambition within the band to actually just keep getting better. Pyromania was a certain standard, so obviously that was the blueprint and the problem at the same time.
Standard of songs are we talking about here that you wanted to exceed?
Standard of everything: performance, production, songwriting, feel, vibe, you name it, attitude, sleeve design, everything. We just wanted everything to be a lot better than Pyromania. We could have copied Pyromania in 3 weeks. We could have done an album. If you check out the B-side, the single Tear It Down, we did that in 2 days. Sung, recorded, mixed, wrote, everything in 2 days. We could have thrown an album out in maybe 5-6 weeks that would have been to the standard of that.
Yeah, but how far would it have got? That's how we looked at it.
Tear It Down, we did specifically that way, just to see how it'd sound. And obviously it doesn't sound as good, I suppose, as the A-side. It's not supposed to. It's a totally different way of recording. but it still sounds alright. You could play it back to back to most rock albums, and it's still better than them. But it's not what we wanted to do for the album. You know, maybe next time we will. Who knows? You know, we wanted to take the Pyromania type of recording to the furthest we could take it, and I think we've just about done that with this record.
You've also disproved the idea that I've heard from many people that you can't take too long, because then you beat the shit out of all the feeling out of it. The feeling goes, you can't hear it anymore, and the whole thing becomes a bit vague when you take too long. And obviously none of that has gone from this record, but did you feel that as you were going along, that you couldn't see where you were going?
Well, we were aware that we could potentially lose feel, so we went out of our way not to. It's as simple as that, you know. I think maybe a lot of people don't really realise where it starts and stops. And just through working with Mutt and working this way for 3 albums, we do know that if you do lose natural feel, you can create it. And we're very good at creating feel.
Feel is there, and surely is there. It comes out of you naturally, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does come out of you naturally, but sometimes you have to force it out. It's like smiling at a family reunion. You can do it, but you don't necessarily want to. You know, and it's the same thing with the feel. Sometimes if it's not naturally there because you've done it too much and you're getting a little bit bored, you have to just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. It's like acting. You know, you don't necessarily have to enjoy the part that you're doing. You don't have to believe in the part you're playing, as long as you play it well. And that is creating a part. And it's the same thing when we you know, recording, whether it be vocals or guitars or guitar solos or whatever, backing vocals, you can create feel. It is possible to do, because we've done it.
You certainly have. Rick, you must be fed up to the back teeth with people saying, I mean, this is amazing, and God, what a brave guy you are, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. However, one has to... However, I got to mention this. When you actually woke up in that hospital and realised what had happened, did you despair, or did you know instantly? Did you think instantly, well, this is just an inconvenience?
I don't think I really knew what was actually the full extent of what had happened to me, because for a start, I mean, I can still feel everything now. It's like fingers, and you know, and at that time when I first woke up, it was like I didn't really understand exactly what had happened to me, but it sort of came home to me quite quickly after a matter of days. Maybe a week at the most, and I think I was realistic enough about it, and I think other people were supportive enough to sort of bring me out of any kind of depression. Obviously, I'd love for people to see me on stage and sort of think, now, there's a guy, you know. I mean, all of us. I mean, yourself, you would probably think the same way. You know, if somebody looked up to you for some reason, it's just that. Because I've got one arm and I play drums, it just, people just focus in on that, you know. It's like I was saying the other day, I suppose it would be the same if I had 3 arms, you know. Hello? Hello? Pyromania.
Tell him in the middle of an interview.
Would you right in the middle of an interview? Yeah. Could you call the other room? What's the other room number?
I don't know, whatever this one isn't.
It's...
So it's 5905.
6059. Okay? Alright, cheers, Pete. Bye.
Did you, Joe, did you and the rest ever think this is the end of the line? This is the end of the band?
Nah, never. If we'd have thought that, we'd have thought that when Pete Willis left. No disrespect to Rick, if he couldn't have carried on, we would have done. But it's all hypothetical because we knew he could carry on. We never made a decision that, well, this is it, we've got to get another drummer. If Rick wasn't going to be in this band anymore, it was his decision, not ours. As far as we were concerned, he was still in the band.
No, but at the same time, I was saying, well, I'll leave it up to the band. It's their decision. I don't, I'll play the drums if they want me to, you know. It was kind of a telepathy sort of thing. I think we all realised that we could carry on the way we always had done, and now it's to a point where there's not really any difference. Like Joe still does the same on stage. He doesn't focus any kind of attention on me. There's no favoritism or whatever. Simply because like I said, I've only got one arm. I think it's just very natural because we're so close.
Do you think this has welded you even closer together this past 3 years?
I would say so, yeah.
Excuse me, 1 second. Yes or no? We've approved it for the next single. Sorry about that.
You want to pause it a minute?
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
All right. So you're saying, do you think it actually welded you closer together all this past 3 years?
I'd say it probably did, but we were very close anyway. I mean, it's made us closer, but we couldn't have got much closer. Shall I say that line again? Yeah. We couldn't have got much closer. We've always been a tight outfit. We've always been on stage, and as human beings, we've always been very close. We were living in the same house in Holland. We lived in the same house in Dublin. We'll probably be living on the same coach when we go out on tour, and we'll be in rooms next to each other for the rest of his lives, the rest of the band's life. And it's good because we're each his own best friends, It's very nice to know that when you're on tour, although you can't be... Can we just leave this room empty a minute, Derek? Because we're right in the middle of an interview.
The getaway. Very good. I've done these under worse conditions than this.
Yeah.
Clicks and bangs sound too, Bob, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Bang the door.
Nice one. I don't know what I was saying.
No, I don't know what the fuck you were saying.
I was saying that, it's nice to know that we can all rely on the fact that we're there if we need each other. You got your own room. You can be on your own, But if you need company or you want to talk to somebody or go for a game of soccer or just go and have a drink, it's just a phone call or a knock on the door, And you need that because when you're away from home a lot and working the way we do, which is touring albums, it's you need that kind of company. You need that stability of knowing that there's a strength there in the band, because if it's there off stage, it's there on stage as well.
Were you aware all this time you were spending in the studio and redoing and redoing that this was becoming a legend in the outside world, this album, before anybody had heard a note of it? Were you aware of any of this? Because it has been. It's been talked about for a long time, and the release date's been put back. Did you know about all this?
We weren't aware of it being a legend. We were aware of it being a laughing stock, which we shall ram down people's throats over the next 18 months. I mean, it'll be us laughing at them, if the thing does anything between 4 and 8 million, which we probably think it can do, I think a lot of people are very, very naive in the way that they kind of wrote us off. They'll never do it, one-arm drummer, how do you follow 6 million? We can and we have and we will. It's silly that people think that, we couldn't ever do it again, and that if we spent a long time making a record, we'd disappear up our own you-know-whats. But it's not true. We come out with a good album. We wanted to make a killer album. And whether it had been legendary or just like the laughing stock over the last 3 or 4 years, we weren't particularly interested in either, because we were too busy trying to create a masterpiece. That's what we wanted to do. So, anybody that stuck with us and said, I know they can do it, then, I'd take my hat off to them. Anybody that stick through that, because I know a lot of people were taking the mickey. But I mean, that's just their own stupidity more than anything else. The thing is, we made a good record, and they didn't.
I've been so anxious to hear this for over a year now. I've been waiting to hear it, and it is a masterpiece. This album is going to be, I will predict, will be one of the classic rock albums ever. I really do think so. I mean, it's just, I've only had this a day, and it's just been going around in the car. I'm thinking, my God. And every time you hear it, you hear other bits and pieces.
Yeah. So do we. So do we. Oh yeah, because there was obviously times when say Phil and Steve would be doing guitars on the album, or Joe would just be doing his vocals, and we'd be off sort of shopping in town, or just doing something else, get your mind off the album, just get away from it for a while. And there are obviously things that were recorded when part of the band weren't around, and I'll put a pair of headphones on and start listening to the album now, and I actually hear things I think, oh, I didn't know they had that on there. Unbelievable, you know.
Right. I must just quickly ask you, my wife's favourite song is Animal, and she insisted that I ask you what Animal is all about. She can't figure what it's all about. Is it just sex, or what is it?
It's anything you want it to be. It's a sound thing. It's we always write lyrics for sound, not for. I never write a story. I never write, you know, very rarely. I mean, Women is almost a story, but it's still a script more than anything else. And Animal is definitely a script. It's a low script that you can suit to whatever you want it to be suited to. It's a love song. It's a lust song. It's whatever you want it to be, really. But it is basically kind of man to woman. But it's not sexist.
No, not sexist. Sexy.
It's the reverse Spinal Tap.
That's it. Yeah, very good.
Right, you got to go. I mean, I could talk for a long time here, but can you give me a quick hi? This is, and you're listening to the Westwood One Radio Network.
Hi, this is Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and you're listening to the Westwood One Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rick Allen from Def Leppard, and you're listening to the
Westwood One Radio Network.
Westwood One Radio Network. Hi, this is Rick Allen from Def Leppard, and you're listening to the Westwood One Radio Network.
And it's great to be back.
And it's great to be back.
Part 2. You do seem extremely confident and optimistic now, but there must have been points in there, honestly, during that 3 years where you got down.
There were, but you came out of them after hours, you know, because I'd maybe think, I lost my voice around about a year ago, and I was in pretty bad shape for about 10 days. I actually was wondering whether I'd ever be able to sing again. So I went to see a doctor in Florida, and he just looked down my throat and said, I've been born, unfortunately, with what he called a shelf on my vocal cords, which is just like this lump, which apparently later in life I'll be able to stand ornaments on, which is like affecting my mid-range. But luckily, from that moment onwards, we basically didn't sing any more mid-range songs. I was struggling on Love Bites, and I got it finished, but I had a problem. And from that moment in time, it was more things like Pour Some Sugar on Me and God's a War, when I'm singing in a lower register or a higher register, which I never really had many problems with. And I'd come back from the doctor's session a week later to hear something that the guys have done, and it'd be so stunningly brilliant, to my ears at least, that any depression that I'd been in, you come out straight away, and that happened all the time. Whether it'd be me disappearing for 10 days, so I could come back and hear 10 days worth of work, or whether I'd just pitch up in an afternoon and hear what they've done in the morning. You know, if I'd been depressed that morning and come in here something great in the afternoon, you're out of your depression, you know. I mean, we're not really that kind of band. The thing is, the idea of this band is escapism. We like to write songs that are about nothing in particular. People can just enjoy them, you know. There's no, you must do this, you must do that. It's just like, you know, like it or leave it, basically, you know. So part of being that kind of attitude means that you can't really be a depressing type of person. I mean, obviously, we were put under very trying circumstances, you know, where we obviously did crack now and again. I mean, with what happened to Rick and with what happened with Jim Steinman and me losing my voice, and then I got mumps, believe it or not, for the second time. And then the day I got back to the studio having had mumps, Mutt was involved in a car crash that he sustained like critical leg injuries, and he was in hospital for 3 weeks. That kind of thing, it's like, is this ever going to stop, you know? But at the same time as that's happening, there was a lot of up things happening on the record as well. We were always aware that we were creating something that was going to be difficult to finish, but was going to be a hell of a record when it was.
It's like comedians. I mean, they're the most miserable people in the world until they get up on stage, aren't they?
They probably are. I don't know any, but I can see that. You know, it's like clowns. I suppose they're the same. You know, a good clown is a sad clown. You know, but I wouldn't know. I've not really met many. Apart from when we did the video for Animal, we did it in a circus. So we did the clown bit, which was quite novel. But we weren't dressed as clowns; it was the real clown.
It went out and played last year. How was that? That was just to try it out and see if it worked with Rick and his machine.
Yeah, we basically got bored stiff. We were fed up of playing to four walls, so we went out and toured. We thought, sod the album for a month. And so, and we wanted to see what Rick could do. He just about mastered his kit, and he said, it's happening. So we put some warm-up gigs together in Ireland, and then we did the 4 Monsters of Rock gigs. We did Donington in England, and Stockholm in Sweden. I can't even remember what it is. And then we did Mannheim and Nuremberg in Germany. And they went really well. They were very good gigs. Because, you see, we started off using 2 drummers because we wanted to nursemaid Rick for a while at least. But he didn't want one. He didn't need one. And after 3.5 gigs, basically, we were basically forced to make the decision that we needed one drummer because the second drummer was late. This is a guy called Jeff Rich who plays for Status Quo now. Was late for one of the gigs, so Rick had to play on his own. But as it happened, it sounded great. So from then onwards, we used Rick on his own. So we were back to the 5-piece that we always wanted to be.
When he first showed up at the studio and said, look what I can do, and sat down and did it, you must have all gone bonkers.
Yeah, we did. But at the same time, we half expected it. You know, it's... It was so satisfying to actually just see the finished result. I think we all knew in the back of his minds that he would pull it off, but we had yet to hear the proof. So it was like we just knew that he'd do it. So we weren't like leaping up and down. It was more like arms folded in admiration and smiling from ear to ear, so you had a coat hanger in your mouth. You know, it was that kind of effect more than like yippee, he's done it. You know, because we knew he'd do it. There was never any doubt in anybody's mind.
Was the idea of Hysteria, I mean, was that the pitch you'd reached at the end of it?
That came via Rick. It was, you know, we were just talking one day and he was saying how the amount of hysteria that had created him being in the Hallamshire hospital, from the letters he had, from the amount of press people that were doing anything from climbing up laundry chutes to disguise themselves as doctors to get in and take his picture, to what we experienced in 1983 on the Pyromania tour. There was a lot of hysteria, and it was a very frightening emotion to experience, but it was an exciting one. And we wanted the album to be exciting, and it just seemed to be, at the time, a good title. You know.
You feel a different person than you were in 83?
I feel a lot more relaxed than I was in 83 because I've experienced an album that had to do well, and it did. And I feel confident enough to know that we can do it again. I'm a little bit older. I'm just as daft. I'll never change there. I got that off my mother. But, you know, I mean, you can't really... You can take the boy out of Yorkshire, but you can't take the Yorkshire out of the boy, you know. I'm the same as I ever was. I just feel a lot more confident and happy. It's like there's a big weight off everybody's shoulders that's now enabling us to just do what we always wanted to do, which is enjoy ourselves by performing in front of people. The responsibility of creating a masterpiece is now gone. We've done it, you know. We were willing to take that weight for as long as it took, and we held it for 3 years, which was a long time. But now it's gone. You can feel the difference, and you can actually see the difference within the members of the band as well.
It was on the moment when you actually saw the finished vinyl. There is the record.
I still haven't seen the finished vinyl. It was when I got my first cassette of the final mixes. You know, all 12 of them on one tape. It's like you listen to it back to back and think, yep, that's the one. You know, it's wonderful. I think it's a good album. You have to believe in it yourself. You really do have to believe in it yourself. Otherwise, there's just no point in doing it. The day we don't believe is the day that we don't carry on.
Everyone says, right, as soon as they're finished, as soon as they leave the studio, they listen back and they hear, oh, wait a minute, I should have done that.
Yeah, well, that's where, you see, that's the difference. We do that while we're making the record. We sat on the songs for a while and keep listening back to a finished version of a song and then think, I don't like that bit. So we did it before the thing got released. You know, this is like our 5th album. We never released the 4th one.
Are all these songs the ones that you originally started off with, or were you chucked out a lot?
6 of them are. We had 10 initially. We eventually got rid of 4, 2 at a time. We replaced 2 with 2. Then we replaced 1 with 2, and then we replaced another 1 with 2. We just kept writing songs, and we ended up with 12. And then we couldn't whittle the 12 down to 10. So we said, well, why should we anyway? So we thought, well, we have been away for a long time. It'd be nice to do value for money trip, So we thought 63 minutes, 12 songs, plus all the B-sides will be previously unavailable for the singles. So, again, we just had this wealth of songs, and we just thought we should use these.
It's one of the things that's happened while you've been away, really, is CDs, because they were just very early stages. So this must be a blessing for you to have your 63 minutes and know it's going to come out selling absolutely as you heard it in the studio.
Yeah, it is, and that's another reason why we spent a long time on it, because we were aware that CDs were going to be up and coming. Sooner or later, they are going to sell more copies than records. Maybe not tapes, because I don't think they've quite mastered CDs in cars, but they're getting there. I saw one unit the other day where somebody had this big lump in their boot, and it takes 10 CDs, and you just have a wire running to your dashboard where you can pick and choose whichever tracks you want. But they still sometimes jump when you go over a grate, which cassettes necessarily don't always do. Sooner or later, CDs are going to be down to the same price as everything else and selling as many. And Hysteria is going to sound tremendous on CD, so that's another reason why we wanted to get it to sound good, not just put out a album that was like, okay, It had to be astounding, We want it to sound good on dance sets as well as your Bang & Olufsen £2,000 units, It's got to sound good on everything from transistor radios to the best FM radio station in the world. We wanted it to just have that overall brilliance. Mutt is very good at doing that, That's his forte, his sound.
You said this is a masterpiece. I think it's a classic, and if it were to be measured against anything else, what would you like people to say? It's as good as, or it's even better than?
It's impossible. That's a question that just can't be answered, because if I said Sgt. Pepper's, somebody out there will start laughing and say, well, forget it, because it's true, nobody can ever compare it to Sgt. Pepper. But, I mean, if, in a perfect world, I'd like it to be compared to Sgt. Pepper, or Rubber Soul, or Led Zeppelin 2, or I don't know, Mott the Hoople's Greatest Hits. Who knows, I mean, just to be there. Everybody's got different opinions on classic albums. Some people think the Smiths may have made a classic album. I don't think they have. A lot of people rave about Rumours. I think it's an okay album. I wouldn't say it's a classic. It had a lot of hits, Thriller is an okay album to me. It's not a classic.
What do you think when you heard Slippery When Wet first, or did you not?
I did, and I thought it was good. I didn't think it was going to be the big seller that it is, because I didn't really hear any fillers, but I didn't really hear too much to impress me on side 2 of the record initially, but then it grew on me. But I always thought side 1 was absolutely wonderful, and I think Living on a Prayer definitely rates in one of my top 10 singles of all time at the moment. And they're nice guys as well, that's good. That's the thing I like about it. They're not obnoxious egotists, they're just regular guys,
Kids even.
Yeah. They're better looking than we are as well, so, you have to look up to them, don't you?
What else came out over the 3 years that impressed you? Do you remember anything else?
I actually did like the sounds that Frankie Goes to Hollywood got, or Trevor Horn got for Frankie Goes to Hollywood. It's a shame they came and went before we had an album out. I didn't like every song they did, but I thought some of the ideas were good. Rock-wise, there's not been that much really that's impressed me. I think Bon Jovi's been the most impressive thing. I'm getting a little bit sick of this LA look, the pouting Aerosmith rip-offs, the tattoos and the hairspray. It's kind of boring me a bit. There hasn't really been that much that impresses me, purely because having worked with something like Mutt, you tend to not listen the same way as you used to do. And a lot of the things that, unfortunately, impress me are not necessarily in the rock field, because there's not many bands that have done what we've done, which is take the technology that, say, Trevor Horn would do for Frankie Goes to Hollywood, or what Scritti Politti would do on Cupid and Psych 85, and use it in a rock sense. The nearest thing to a rock band, dare I say it, that's actually made a decent record is Tears for Fears, and they're not a rock band anyway. They had a guitar, but they made a good sounding record. There aren't that many good sounding hard rock albums that have been released over the last 3 years. Slippery When Wet is by far the best to my ears. I don't like a lot of the thrash stuff. I think it's nonsense.
Really, just noise.
Yeah, I think anybody could do that. I don't think they could do what we've done.
Oh, no doubt about it. So everybody must be absolutely desperate to get out there now and do this live, especially in the States, where you're going to be welcomed home like gods, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to be accepted. Yes, we are itching to do it and we can't wait to tour, but I don't know whether we are going to be accepted like gods, because that I don't think you can really say yourself, and I don't really think that anybody's in a godly position after 3 albums, of which only one of them was mega successful. One was reasonably successful and the other one was okay, which is basically how the albums went. I mean, financially, it's going to mean a lot more to the band to do it in America, but actually emotionally it'll mean a lot more to do it in England. That'd be wonderful.
Somebody somewhere has got many sheets of paper with figures on them, and they've worked out how much this cost you to do this masterpiece. What are round figures?
Over $1 million. It really, yeah, it costs over $1 million.
How many you got to sell to get that paid?
We've got to sell about 2 million to break even, which is like nothing that we're not used to. We had to sell nearly 1.5 million copies of Pyromania to break even because we had such a back debt to Phonogram over the previous 4 years of Pyromania that we had to wipe clean first. So, you speculate to accumulate, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in about 18 months' time, whether we can afford to do another album.
This record's the most added record, right? First week out in the States.
Yeah, apparently it's now #1 most requested song all over America. Women is. So that's nice to know. It's only been on the air for 6 days, and it's not in the shops yet, so it's a bit of a tease, But it's #1 most requested on phones, which is nice. It's wonderful. It's brilliant. We didn't expect it to be that heavy. I mean, generally, when Pyromania was at its peak, we were on heavy rotation on about 125 stations in America. We're now, at this moment in time, on 140. So potentially it could even be bigger. It just depends if people are willing to buy the record. We've done our bit. The radio stations are doing their bit. It's up to the public whether they like it or not. That we can't dictate,
Why do you do different singles in both countries?
Because different climates at the moment. Animal, we always saw as a single. It was obvious to us it was a single. Like Photograph was going to be a single off Pyromania. It was one of the more commercial tracks on the album. But in America, we sat down with Peter Mensch and Cliff Bernstein, our managers, and they live in America and we don't. And they mentioned to us that at the moment, with the state of the top 10 on Billboard, say, with Whitesnake, Poison, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Ozzy's roundabout, Cinderella around about there. It's a very rock-orientated chart, and there was no reason at all why we couldn't put Women out as the lead track off the album. Because we'd always love to put out the album tracks as singles, but to be able to do that, you've got to be a big band anyway. And we thought, well, after 4 years away, it'd be nice to hit them with something really hard. This is in a market where we're expected to do a certain thing, whereas in England it's pretty kind of new territory in a sense, on the commercial field at least, for us. So again, we could do anything we wanted there. We wanted to put Animal out because it was more immediate for England, whereas Women is more like, it's the shock value of it more than anything else, because I think maybe a lot of people would have expected us to put Animal out in America first. It'll probably be released as a second single, but between ourselves and Cliff and Peter, we basically decided that it would be nice to try Women and see what happened with it. And it's worked, so it was the right decision.
You mentioned Whitesnake. What did you think of Still in the Night?
I actually really like the song, but I must admit that if I was Robert Plant, I'd be hopping up and down, It's every Led Zeppelin song rolled into one, but I mean, I really love the song. I can't help it. I mean, the middle bit is outrageously the same as A Lot of Love. But to be quite honest, it's probably better than a Led Zeppelin song, but it's just very Led Zeppelin influence, you know. It's all the best Led Zeppelin songs rolled into one 6-minute bundle of fun, and I think it's wonderful. And I'm very glad that David Coverdale's got over his voice problems and got himself a really good looking and visual band together, instead of these silly old fat men with beards and moustaches that can't wear a hat properly. You know, I'd much rather see the Rudy Zarzos in the band, even though he's not staying, and Adrian Vandenberg and what have you, than poor old Mickey Moody. I mean, God bless him, but I mean, he just didn't look the part, you know. And I think he's proved it with the success he's got. It's not just purely the record, it's the image. But he did make a good record. And albeit aimed at America, as everybody's accusing him, it's the best Whitesnake album there's ever been. So that's also the best Whitesnake album for an English fan as well. I can't understand why aiming at America is a sellout, because nowadays nobody's trying to sound like Journey. Everybody's trying to get heavier, you know. So
it's a good time to come back.
It is, yeah. It'll be nice to see how our album does, because the last time we were selling big in the States, the only competition we had was like Michael Jackson, Men at Work, The Police, and the soundtrack for Flashdance. Now we've got legitimate bands. We've got your Whitesnakes, your Bon Jovis, your Cinderellas, your Motley Crues. And if we can sell well against them, it will prove to us that we are the best rock band in the world, which we firmly believe we are.
Is this an open-ended tour, or is it?
Yeah. I mean, the last date isn't booked. The last date will be booked whenever it is, you know. It's very open. We've got the dates are finalised in England. The dates are finalised in America up to Christmas, and then from then onwards we're going to busk it a little bit. We may go to Europe in January. We may stay in America till June and then do Europe. We may do Europe for 6 months and then go back to America for 6 months. We don't know. Australia may beckon, you know. It's anything is possible. We may do Rock in Rio. There's all sorts of places that we've never done. We'd like to play Poland, Yugoslavia, you name it, you know.
The world is your oyster.
Indeed, yeah.
Away from fucking Holland.
The mountains of Holland. Yeah.
Where's the first date? The first date's 25th of September in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, the first gig of the tour is the 27th of August in Dublin. Then we move up to Belfast, and then we hop across to England. And it looks like the first gig's going to be the City Hall in Sheffield. And it's also going to be the last gig of the tour as well, with Hammersmith and everywhere else sandwiched in the middle somewhere. And we finish on the 18th of September. Then we go over to rehearse for a few days in America and then start the American tour end of September, which takes us through till Christmas. And then from then onwards we'll just wait and see how the record's selling. The tour will last as long as the album lasts.
Oh, well, in that case you're on the road for the next 6 years.
Well, this is possible, you know. I mean, we have actually put 2 years aside for touring. But I mean, that will be like a week off every 8 weeks or so, because you can't physically go out for 2 years, you'd die. But, you know, I mean, it will be on and off touring for 2 years.
And the next album will take 4 months.
I'm not saying that again. You can cut that bit out of the old interview. At least I said that we like to take our time and we like to get it right, which is exactly what we did.
You got it right. Thank you, Joe.